I'm live. This used to be a dead zone in the yard for me, so I'm really excited to be able to go live from this spot because this second patio is one of my favorite in this yard, and it's my last summer in this yard. I'm gonna miss it, but that just means something better is coming. I haven't found where I'm going to be living yet, but when I do, is gonna be amazing because one of the things that attracted me about this place was the yard, and it is an incredible yard. I know I've done tours of it before. They own a landscape company, and it definitely shows in their backyard. So true to form, when I go live, there is always noise in the background. There's always construction work. There's always squirrels jumping off all over the place. There's always something interesting going on. One year there was always a bird that every time I went live, the bird had to call, caw, caw, caw. So if it doesn't bother you, it doesn't bother me. We're going to keep going. So last week was really exciting, but first I probably should introduce myself because I forget that not everybody over here knows who I am. My name is Tamira. I blog about the business of beauty. I've been blogging about the business of beauty since 2013, multiple six-figure income earner, multiple six figures in sales, just really like a beast at what I do. It's true. But I also have been in leadership probably since high school, which is over 30 years, okay? Actually been a leader in my family since I was probably born. First child, first grandchild, all that. So had a lot of responsibility, and I know a thing or two about leadership. I know not only from practical experience, not only from theory, but from examples, both good and bad. Gotta stay hydrated. So last week I spent 3 nights, 4 days in the woods up north there, in Wisconsin, near Minnesota, at a leadership retreat. It was a beautiful cabin. I clearly don't glamp enough. I need to do more glamping. I need more glamping in my life. Yes, I said glamping. And so that leadership retreat was great, out in the woods on a beautiful piece of property. They actually do wedding venues and other things, but spent time with 15, 16 other ladies, and there was no drama. Everybody was focused. There were so many tears shed, and I knew I would be coming on here and talking about leadership. I wasn't quite sure what, so I think I'm just gonna riff. I'm just gonna riff on leadership, what it means, what it looks like, what it feels like, and really encourage you to step into your role as a leader, because so many people think that to be a leader means you have to have a certain title, rank, or position. And I'm here to tell you that's just not the case. In fact, most of my promotions in corporate America came because I didn't feel I had to have a certain title, rank, or position in order to lead from where I was. So that's my first piece of advice to you, is to lead from where you are. I won't say that you can't mess it up, because in the corporate America especially, there are certain things that you can't do where you can mess it up, but you can always fix it. I can tell you that. You should always be able to fix it. You should always be able to learn, apply, and move onward and upward. So leadership is just simply doing what other people won't do, taking both responsibility and accountability, not only for yourself but for others. And I'm going to riff on that for just a second, because one of the things that it took me a while to get there in my leadership is you have to be accountable for the actions of others without blaming others, and without feeling like, oh, I could have done it without them, right? Because yeah, you can, but I'm here to tell you, especially in this residual world, you will only get so far doing it by yourself, and you will get really, really tired. The whole purpose of residual income, the whole purpose of leveraged income, is to take the work of a multitude of people instead of the work of just one person. Now, that doesn't mean when you hit a certain title, leadership, rank, or position in an opportunity, for example, that doesn't mean that you just get to take your foot off the wheel and, take your foot off the pedal and just coast. There are people who do that, and there are people who are able to do that for a certain amount of time, but you have to build it to a very high point, to a very high number, to a very big and consistent number before you do that. Otherwise, you end up having to go back and rebuild, and it begins this cycle of restarting over, rebuilding, building, then rebuilding, building, then rebuilding, build, coast, rebuild, coast, rebuild, right? And so, there were a lot of interesting dynamics in this group. It was my first time at this retreat and with these women in particular. And, everybody has different personalities. And one of the things you have to know how to do as a leader is you have to know how to coach, manage, mentor, and guide the various personalities. You can't just take a buckshot approach and you're just going to coach everybody the same, right? You can't mentor everyone the same. Everyone is different. Everyone has different things that motivate them. Everyone has different communication styles. Everyone has different pet peeves. Everyone has different experience, different life experience, different work experience. There are so many variables at play that you have to really know who it is that you're serving, because leadership is serving, right? A lot of people think leadership is getting in this position and everyone is serving you. Everyone is working for you. Everyone is doing everything and you're just reaping the rewards. And that's just not the case. It just doesn't work that way. If it did, I don't know. I don't know what it would be like if it did, but it doesn't work that way. And that's over 30 years of leadership experience telling you that. It just doesn't work that way. It never is going to work that way. And if you want to make the most of it, you've got to do the most with it. You've got to put in the work. You've got to put in the personal development time, because here's the thing. If you're not growing as a leader, then your team isn't growing, right? So if your team isn't growing, and I've had to do this, right? I've had to say, okay, Tamara, your team's not growing. And I could blame this person, I could blame that person, I could blame everybody under the sun, but at the end of the day, it's me, right? I'm responsible for growing my team. I'm responsible for coaching, guiding, and mentoring my team. And one of my biggest pieces of advice with leadership is to understand this principle, which is sometimes you have to love and leave people where they are at. It doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean they're inferior. It doesn't mean anything other than you love them where they are at. Sorry, I just got distracted by some pretty flowers that I didn't know were back there. I'm gonna have to take some pictures of those. So you have to love people where they're at, right? Because I've been that leader. I've been that manager that had to push, pull, drag people across the finish line. And hey, I took people to new heights in their careers. They're still flourishing in their careers because of the time they spent with me 10, 12, 15 years ago. But here's the thing, especially when you don't have that authority over them that you have in a corporate sense, where you can, okay, I think I'm back. Okay. I forgot where I was, though. So, in corporate America, you have the authority, right? You can perform people out. You can coach them up or coach them out. And that's not necessarily an option in this world here, right? But what you can do is you can say, hey, whatever it is you want from me, whatever it is you need from me, within reason, right? I got you, right? And when you are ready, I will be over here. Until then, I'm here supporting you, cheering you on, and loving you exactly where you are at. Okay? So that is one of the realities of leadership. Not everyone is going to do it. You will come across people that you just know have it if they only would do it. Okay? You're going to come across people that you just don't even take seriously, and you just don't even see it, and the next thing you know, like pop, 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 they're just popping off all over the place, and they are doing the thug thizzle. That is normal. That is what it's all about. There's no way to just weed everyone out and sift and sort perfectly every time to come out with leaders, or with quote unquote winners or runners or go nows, all the different things I've heard them called over the last 10 years, right? So leadership is definitely loving people where they're at, letting them know that you love them, you support them, and if and when they are ready, you got them, right? Now, beyond that, barring any like major conflicts, there's really no reason for drama on your team, right? Drama kills paychecks. You do not want drama on your team. It is your job to squash all drama. It is your job to actually create an environment where drama just either takes care of itself or it doesn't exist, right? It's all on you. You absolutely cannot be the ringleader of drama. You cannot be the driving force behind drama. You cannot be the instigator, the curator, the carry honor of drama. Drama will kill your paycheck really, really fast. You want to lose a big portion of your team? Allow drama to fester, right? Allow there to be drama, right? And one of the things I can say about working in an environment that is predominantly female, one of the things about that is there can be some cattiness, right? There are also women who thrive off of control. They have to control every little thing. They want to have everything done exactly the way that they would do it. And I can be that way, in certain situations, especially when it comes to marketing, because I know marketing. I've been marketing for more than half my life, right? And as a leader, you have to be aware of when you're falling into that mode. You have to be aware of when you need to make a decision. Is it important that it be done exactly the way that I do it, or is it important the way that it gets done, right? I'll never forget, I was struggling. I'd had a 5.5-year-old and just given birth to a new baby who will be 25 in a few weeks, okay? And, I had my first at 18, graduated high school with her, went on to college, graduated college with her, and so she was there with me my whole 4 years in undergrad, right? And so here we are 5.5 years later, and I got this newborn, and I'm literally starting all over. But I'm also have been in the workforce full time with my degree for a year now. I'm commuting 2 hours a day back and forth to work, and even traveling out of state for work. So when I say I was on the struggle bus, I was on the struggle bus. And so her dad and all of us, we all lived together, and he grew up a spoiled mama's boy. He didn't really have, and he was the youngest, and there was a big age gap between him and the next sibling. And I say all of this because he was no help around the house. And I had to come to the conclusion that even though growing up, my mother would take all the towels off the shelf if they weren't folded the way that she wanted them to be folded, and we would have to fold them to her specification, like we were in the military or something. Even though he was not folding them the way that my mother had drilled in me all those years, the towels were folded and they were put away, and that was enough. that was enough, right? And so you have to come to that conclusion about some things in your business and yes, in your personal life as well, that it's not all going to be done perfectly. Now, with that said, I'm going to say on the other side, there are women who are so focused on controlling every aspect of the people that report to them or are in their downline or whatever, whether it be coaching, personal assistant, or whatever. They are so concerned with controlling every little aspect of that, but then you walk into their house and their house is a complete fucking disaster, right? They're so focused on everyone else that because it distracts them from taking care of the things that they need to take care of in their life. And what does that have to do with leadership? Because sometimes working with those individuals is a no-win situation where it has to be done their exact way, when they want it and how they want it. Okay, so what I'm telling you is leadership is a two-way street, right? It's just like a marriage, just like a relationship. There are things that you have that are non-negotiable, that the other person has that are non-negotiable, and you have to figure out how to make it work if you really want to invest the time, energy, and reap the reward of the relationship, right? You can't go in being a dictator because this is my team, this is how it's done, and this is how we're going to do it. Now, don't get me wrong. There are a few extreme times when that is necessary, okay? And I know this from corporate America. There are a few extreme times when that is necessary. But for the most part, you want people to feel like they're invested in what's going on. You want people to feel like they are valued, that their input, that their feedback is important. And there are a lot of different ways to do that. But you can't be so rigid in your way or the highway. That is probably my biggest pet peeve I see in leadership. It is probably one of the biggest annoyances I have with, people of that mindset where it just has to be theirs. The other thing I will tell you, and this is more so for those of you in corporate America, you cannot put yourself in a position that you care more about someone else's business than they do. Okay? I'm going to say that again. Do not put yourself in a position that you care more about someone else's business than they do. They're paying you for a job. You do that job. Should you go over and beyond? I don't know how not to. But you have to set your marker for when enough is enough, right? Because, and I've been a victim of this. I've done this, and it was self-imposed, where I gave so much of myself. I gave all of me and then some to corporate America, only to be spit on and literally shut out, okay? You will put yourself in it's just like in a relationship. You can put yourself in a position where you've gone beyond help, support, guidance, to where you literally become a nuisance. You literally become an annoyance because you don't know how to let shit go. You spoke your piece and you let it go. Stop being so attached to they didn't do what you said or didn't do it your way. Because sometimes they might know something that you don't know. Sometimes they just end up being right, or you both were right, or whatever. And you also have to give people grace for making their own decisions and coming to their own conclusions, so that whether it worked out or not, you're not standing there, well, I told you. Nobody wants to be around that person. Nobody wants to be around that energy. It's a horrible, horrible energy, okay? And one of the things your job to do as a leader is to energize, but you also need to have energy, okay? And if you are a drain to be around, you are not managing your energy, then the people who are looking to you for energy get drained. They don't want to be around you. They see you coming, they want to head the other way, okay? So don't be a know-it-all Nancy. Don't be a my way or the highway. Don't become like it's your business, and if someone doesn't follow your advice, their business is going to fail, right? Don't do that. Don't do that. You have to remember your role. And Robert Greene talks about this in the 48 Laws of Power. Never outshine the master. Never outshine the master, okay? So, what else? What else do I want to riff on? You know, because here's the thing. If your energy is in a stank place, right? If your energy is in a stank place and you're transferring that energy to your team, now you've got a morale problem. Now you've got a stank problem that's gonna, it's like drama. It's probably worse than drama. It's probably gonna kill your team when you are walking around with nasty, know-it-all, dictator energy, instead of understanding that everybody has something to bring to the table. Everybody has a talent. Everyone has a strength. And if you can't figure out that strength, if you can't figure out that talent, then that's on you, boo. That's your failure as a leader. The other thing is you need to know where people are weak, even when they don't know it or don't want to admit it. And you may want to fill in the gaps, get them the support, right? Because that's one of the roles of a leader, is to remove the obstacles, right? Is to remove the impediments, to remove the objections and make it clear, make it easy, make it succinct. And if you're bringing stank energy to that, that impacts how people are going to interact with you. Nobody wants to interact with a negative Nelly, right? You don't want to transfer your negative energy. So a lot of times what I do before I'm interacting with someone that I may not necessarily care for, I think about the good things I like about them, right? For me, it's usually something physical, like, oh, I like the way they wear their eyeshadow or their hair or their something. Think about those things and compliment them on that when you see them right away, to really set that good energy. Now, it needs to be a sincere compliment. It should not be a bogus compliment. It should not be love bombing. Just a nice compliment. I really like that shirt you have on today. See how they're doing. People don't care what you know until they know that you care, right? They don't care what you know until they know that you care. Are you showing people that you care about them? Are you showing that? Is there proof to it? Or are you love bombing, right? Don't be a love bomber. Be sincere, right? And then from there, ask a lot of questions. Seek to understand, then be understood, okay? Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Because I will say, that is one of my biggest frustrations with people in general lately. They talk over you, they cut you off, they're so busy thinking about what they got to say next, and then they look at you like you're crazy when you keep talking. Like, no, you're not going to fucking talk over me. I said what I said, and I'm not done. Like old girl said, I'm speaking. I'm speaking, right? I have this phrase too. I haven't completed my thought yet. I'm going to complete my thought, right? And, I've been letting people know, hey, you keep cutting me off. What's up with that? Can you let me finish my sentence, right? And I think it's this difference again between energy and managing it, right? Because I love to listen to people. I want to make sure I understand them, right? But there are other people who are kind of bullies, where all they do is they talk and they rant and they rave, right? And they go on and on and on, but they never stop to listen, right? They're so busy. And I don't know if it's because my kids are grown and out of the house. I have this ease and flow about me. I don't know. But I notice it a lot with moms and I'm like, if you're doing this to me, imagine what you're doing to your kids. Are you listening to them? Do they feel heard? Do they feel seen? Because a person can't feel seen and heard when they're cut off all the time. Because I often don't feel heard or seen because I've spent so much time listening that, and when you're spending a lot of time listening, people think they can just cut you off and they can just finish your sentence for you, right? I'm going to tell you that too. Don't let other people tell your story for you. You tell your own damn story. Don't let other people write their caricature of you and pass that caricature of you on to other people. Now, I believe that people mean well when they do that, but you make sure that people get to know you for you. So if you're on a team and someone you know and care for is in a bad energy mode, don't let that spill over to you, because if you do, then you get characterized with that person. You don't want to be seen as one of the trouble starters, or being guilty by association. You want to set your own reputation. You want people to know you for you, right? I'm not saying don't stand for anything, but you can learn how to play Switzerland, right? You can learn how to, not play both sides of the fence, but, be neutral, be fair. That's always my thing, is I always aim to be fair. I always aim to be prudent, a voice of reason, not just a, ride with the bandwagon because somebody I know doesn't like somebody, so I'm not going to like them. This is not middle school. We are adults, right? We are adults, okay? So manage your energy, manage your reputation, right? Love people where they are at. Not everyone is going to want to be the top 5%, 1%, 2%. Some people aren't even going to want to be the top 50%, and that's fine. Love them and leave them where they're at. And remember, leadership is accountability. Leadership is responsibility, right? It's just like on Bar Rescue. I love that show. I can't remember that old grumpy guy's name, but he always ends up having to have this talk with the owner and the manager of the establishment, right? Do you want to close your doors? No. Then you take accountability. You take responsibility. Stop playing the blame game. Stop shifting blame. And you take responsibility. You be a man. You be a woman. You make a decision and move forward. You make a decision and move forward. But stop talking about what everybody else did or didn't do. What are you doing? What are you going to do? How are you going to fix this? How are you going to salvage it? How are you going to move forward, right? And sometimes deciding to shut it all down is the right decision to make. That can be a decision too. But I just wanted to come on and, because leadership's been heavy on my mind, and I was at that retreat last week. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And I'm a people watcher. I sit back and I watch people, and I watch dynamics, and I watch how people interact with each other. And like I said, leadership is serving. How can you better serve? How can you, again, part of serving is knowing when to shut up, knowing when to listen, knowing when to, I won't get into that, but just knowing when to listen, right? Making sure people feel seen, heard, and acknowledged. I heard a great quote last week: find something to love in everyone on your team, right? And if you are working in I worked in a small, close-knit environment for years as a leader, and you spend more time with those people than you spend with those in your home sometimes. You better be finding something to love about each one of them, just like you do about your kids. Because let's be honest, you don't always like what your kids do. You don't always like your kids. You don't always like your mate. You don't always like your husband, but you love them, right? And it's that same thing on your team, and maybe even at work. You have to know when to just say, okay, hey, I love them where they're at. I accept this about them. And how can you make it work elsewhere on the team, right? The worst thing is for someone to feel like you've got it out for them. You don't want an environment like that. I worked in an environment where I went in and they basically told me, you got to get rid of this person, without telling me why, without telling me how, just that I had to get rid of them. And for me, I could not just go in there and be like, okay, I'm going to find a reason to get rid of this person. I had to wait for the reason to show up, because I just wasn't going to create an environment like that where you're out for someone. That's a very, very toxic environment, and no one should have to work under those circumstances. So my battery's getting low. This was an interesting live. Never had to move, run halfway across the yard like that, but we did, and we made it. And now there's an airplane going over. Like I said, it's never a dull day when I'm outside. There's always something. Oh, that's a helicopter. It's a bird. So that's my cue. I'm gonna go now. I will talk to you later. Bye.